Dancing in the garden. Are you there? Are you there? Shine on, friend.
I'm often startled by the absolute depths of depravity which religious people will happily sink to in pursuit of their agenda. And one example of this is the way that they will disguise their religious beliefs as science and then try to pass it off. And so I found this, this short article very interesting, and I hope you do too. This is by Amanda Gefter. As a book reviews editor at New Scientist magazine, I often come across so-called science books which, after a few pages, reveal themselves to be harboring ulterior motives. I have learned to recognize clues that the author is pushing a religious agenda. As creationists in the U.S. continue to lose court battles over attempts to have intelligent design taught as science in federally funded schools, their strategy has been forced to, well, evolve. That means ensuring that references to pseudoscientific concepts like ID are more heavily veiled. So I thought I'd share a few tips for spotting what may be religion in science's clothing. And I think this is useful not just to other science book review editors, but just people in the general public, like, us.
Right.
Anytime you pick up a book, these are handy hints that would help you tell whether you're reading actual science or a cheap imitation.
I've noticed that even I sometimes fail to keep up with the lingo. I recently posted something that said, creationism, or their new moniker, intelligent design, or their new moniker, teach the strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And then somebody corrected me, no, you're already behind the times. Now it's academic freedom.
Yes, that's true. Red flag number 1, the term scientific materialism. Materialism is most often used in these books and articles in contrast to something else, something non-material or supernatural. Proponents of ID frequently lament the scientific claim that humans are the product of purely material forces. At the same time, they never define how non-material forces might work. I have yet to find a definition that characterizes non-materialism in terms of what it is, rather than what it is not.
They're gun-shy now about defining it, because they used to do that.
Did they? How did they define it? What did they define it as?
Well, they used to say God.
Oh, right.
And then they got smacked down in the 60s.
And then they'd have all the baggage of religion to explain those details. And now, since they can't say God, they don't have any details.
Right.
Interesting. The invocation of Cartesian dualism, where the brain and mind are viewed as two distinct entities, one material and the other immaterial, is also a red flag. If an author describes the mind, or any biological system for that matter, as irreducibly complex, let the alarm bells ring.
Jumping to dualism still doesn't put it out of the realm of scientific inquiry. Even if there is some kind of soul-brain link somewhere, you can still identify sort of the connection on this end, as if it's a couple of computers talking to each other over IP. You'd still want to know, like, the brain still has some hardware. How fast is the connection and stuff like that? And why is it that when the brain breaks, the soul appears to, the personality appears to be broken too?
Right. If there is some stuff that certain people call supernatural, but it interacts with the material world, in a sense, it can't be supernatural. It's then part of the material system. It's connected.
In some way, yeah.
In some way. So I mean,
it's got a material component.
This
no matter what.
Yeah, but claiming that there is a non-physical or irreducibly complex thing going on is pretty much just a means of shutting down discussion.
Right.
So they can erect a wall between what we know and what they don't want us to be able to claim to know about.
Dancing in the garden. Are you there? Are you there? Shine on.